Hello everyone, I'm Steve Wyss, part of the Nordic Football Podcast. Thanks for joining me on this video where I'm going to talk about Eliteserien fantasy. It's been, well, probably a couple of months since I last did one of these videos, but I did promise in the most recent podcast that I would do one this week because there's a crucial period coming up in Eliteserien and fantasy, so let's get straight into it. Well, we're in the early hours of August the 1st, which means the Eliteserien transfer window is now open. And it closes at the end of the month. I think it's the 30th of August off the top of my head. And, you know, we're probably going to see an absolutely manic month in terms of transfers. So we've got to consider this for guys who've been relying on players like, say, Layuni or Hakon Evien or someone like that. Suddenly these guys can be taken away in next to no time, you know, randomly. So it's very hard to plan in advance for this month with certain players. You've got to be very careful, that's for sure. And then obviously there's new players coming into the league who can make a big difference. If you can snap those new players up, the value players, then you can get an edge on your rivals in fantasy. So yeah, it's going to be a precarious month potentially, is August, but there's quite a lot of rounds, 5 rounds in total. We start with round 16 here, which is this Saturday. Odd against Lillestrøm and Sarpsborg against the Rosenborg kick us off. We move on then to a crucial round 17, which is a double game week for 4 teams. This is going to be an absolutely, I say, really crucial in the long-term future of fantasy in Eliteserien, because it's the only remaining double game week on the cards. I can't see any other double game weeks occurring for any teams unless some seriously bad weather intervenes for a match, or if Rosenborg somehow get a fixture postponed because of their European involvement. So this is going to be your last chance for double game week points probably this season in Eliteserien fantasy. And we go all the way through for round 18, round 19 and round 20. And then we're going to get a couple of weeks off for the international break, 14th of September, and that's when we're going to know all the finalised transfers. So a 5-week period. And I think you've got a plan for this 5-week period coming up. And what I've actually done here, and this is going to help a few of you out hopefully, is I've got all the Eliteserien fixtures for each team in this period. As we can see here, here's an example that I've got. Molde here, and all their fixtures. A green highlight there is what I'd call a favourable matchup or an easy fixture. There's no really such thing as an easy fixture, is there? So favourable is a word that I like to use. Red here is what I'd call unfavourable or difficult. And the orange colour here is sort of in between. You know, it's an average sort of match, an average difficulty. There's some positives, there's some negatives towards it. So this is a good guide. I've got all of the teams here, what fixtures they've got in the next 5 rounds, and it can work out your planning. So I'm going to go to my team, and I've been doing quite well. I'm 40th overall, second highest out in England. You know, I guess a lot of people expected me to go well, and I've done relatively well. My one disappointment is that I had a very poor round when I used the rich uncle chip. I did it when there was only about 4 or 5 matches on in the round. It completely flopped for me. That's my only negative for this season. I do wish I had that rich uncle chip back still left, but I don't have it. But I do still have my 3 strikers double points option, which I'm strongly considering using it for this double game week 17. And this is, I'd say, a crucial match day. There's 4 teams that have a couple of games this week: Kristiansund, Bodø/Glimt, Vålerenga and Viking. And to be honest, I think you've got to try and get as many players from those teams in your squad as you can ahead of this double game week. I mean, luckily I've got a wild card remaining, and I've just done a draft on this wild card. I mean, this won't necessarily be my final squad, but this is what I personally ended up with after this wildcard draft. I will be using the wildcard this week. I'm strongly considering using my 3 strikers, Spish Rusher, I think it's called, on the double game week. I've not fully decided if I'm going to do that yet. But we need to talk about the teams that have got 4 matches next in that double game week. And the first team that has 2 games here is Buda Glimt. Now, it's all well and good loading your team up with players from these teams, because there's still, as you can see, 3 more match days left in the month. So you've got to look and see, and unless you're going to use another wildcard straight away, which I would not recommend, I would absolutely wait until the transfer window is done before you do any wildcard in the second half of the season. So you've got to plan for the rest of the month. And what does stand out to me straight away here is Kristiansund. They've got a tough match first up this weekend at Vålerenga. I must first of all say that. I think that's a really tough game for them. In the double game week, they've got Odd at home and Buda Glimt at home. Now, those fixtures are manageable. The offensive players could get something out of them, and the defensive players could get something out of them. So, that's not too bad. But after that, they've got 3 nice-looking fixtures in the month. Stabæk away, Mjøndalen at home, and Ranheim away. That is definitely got the potential to score points for Kristiansund. So straight away, I'm thinking, who in this Kristiansund side can we look to get in? And I've heard no one really talking about them for this particular month. Obviously, the goalkeeper Sean McDermott is an option. I've kept him in my team. I think he's a top quality keeper. He showed that against Manchester United in the friendly in midweek. So he's a possibility. Christoph Cichy just keeps scoring points, doesn't he? And he's very cheap at 4.5 million. And I've added him into my squad. Kristiansund are the sort of side that will keep a few clean sheets here and there, which will help him out. But he also has a real knack of scoring from set pieces. He's such a physical monster and a beast. That his goal scoring threat is really crucial. The rest of the defence, he can be rotated around too much for my liking. So Cichy is the standout option there for Kristiansund. In attack, I've gone with Flamur Kastrati, the striker. This is a big risk because he's an injury concern. Sometimes he can be a bit needs to be wrapped in cotton wool. So I'm kind of gambling that he stays fit this month. But if he does stay fit, I'm absolutely sure Flamur Kastrati will score a few goals in August because he's got the right sort of matchups, and I think he can go very well. There's obviously, the injury concern, maybe that he might be rested as well, but Kastrati's a man I'm going to go with. You could also consider Bendik B and Amang, but they're probably not getting enough. Well, Bendik B's on the wing for a start. He's not going to start up front, and Amang isn't getting enough minutes. In midfield, Diop is suspended for this weekend against Vålerenga. After that, he could be one to bring into your team next week. And I've personally gone with Turgil Yurtsen because I think there's a big few matches coming up for him. He could definitely supply some assists, score the odd goal himself, again, if he stays fit. So there's definitely a team worth looking at. It's Kristiansund. And another team that have in the double game week is Vålerenga. They've lost Chidera Ejuka to Heerenveen for £2 million. Fantastic signing for the Dutch club there. And in a way, it kind of frees up some of their other attackers here if they stay fit. I think Matthias Williamson, you've got to get him in your team for this month, because let's look at Vålerenga fixtures. Well, they've got some very favourable ones straight away. Kristiansund at home this weekend. The double game week, they're at Strømsgodset and Stabæk. Yeah, there's 2 away games there, but there's definitely a lot of goal scoring potential for them. And then Haugesund at home. They battered them a few weeks ago, 4-1 away, so they can fill their boots in that one. Tough couple of games to finish the month off with an away trip. Actually, the Rosenborg game is at home. That's a mistake from me there. Budeglimt away, but that could be a high-scoring game, so the attacking players might do well. Rosenborg at home, yeah, it's a tough game, but they are at home, and the last year ended 2-2. So there's goals in this Vålerenga team in August, and I think Williamson is definitely a player you need to be adding to your roster. After that, then really you've got to make decisions, because it comes down to Bård Finner, Herald Inshallah, or Aaron Dunham. And I've added Dunham into my side because he's the cheapest of the options. He was in scintillating form just before the break, scoring points galore. Can he keep it up? Well, why not? I think a lot of people kind of don't really focus on him enough when they should be. Bård Finner is an obvious option as well. I mean, he was in great form before the break, but he's a bit more expensive, isn't he? So you've got to make your decisions here. You're going to have, you could probably have a couple of them, Finner, Dunham, if you wanted to, but it's difficult, isn't it, to pick more than one player from the same club in the same position. Errol Shaw is another option, although he's not been as consistent as the other ones before then. In terms of the defence for Vålerenga, I'm not sure I see many clean sheets for them in August, to be honest. I think it's their offence which is going to lead the line, so I wouldn't be looking for clean sheet potential. However, I do like their fullback, Samad Akugbe. He's been weighing in with more assists this year. Now he's come back from injury. So I wouldn't be surprised if he added a couple of assists this month. Maybe even get himself a goal, or at least a chance of a goal or two. Juarez is not such offensively minded, but he, again, shouldn't be completely ignored. I think if you're looking for a defender from Vålerenga, it's Juarez or Adekugbe. But definitely look at getting some Vålerenga players into your side. The other team, which has two matches in game week 17, is Budeglimt. Now, they've been linked, a lot of their players have been linked with transfers away from the club. Hakon Evjen is one of them. The midfielder Layuni is another one, linked with a move away from the club. I know the goalkeeper Friedrich was talked about leaving, and also the left back Björkan. So, I mean, but this may well happen. A lot of these moves may well happen at the end of the month. So, in the here and now, you would hope that these key players will certainly stay for match day 17, where they have got, again, a nice little soft month really for Budeglimt in some ways. They go to Strømsgodset away this Monday night. They got Viking at home and Kristiansund away in the double game week. Sarpsborg away, Vålerenga at home. There's definitely scoreable points there for Budeglimt, mostly for the attacking areas, I think, not so much defensively. But that is a manageable month for them. The good thing about, I've kept the goalkeeper in the squad for now, because he can have some good weeks, Friedrich, when they do keep a clean sheet. Björkan's my favourite defender from Budeglimt because he offers so much offensively. There's always an assist in there. He's had a few goals as well this season, so he's someone that I definitely would recommend in my team. And of course, you had to have Amor Layuni, and I did recommend him right at the start of the season. He's been in my team, and that's one of probably the reasons why I've done quite well. So, and you have to have Amor Layuni in your side, don't you? The big concern here is keep your eye on any potential transfer moves for Layuni. So, apart from that, he should go very well this month, and so should Hakon Evjen, who now is owned nearly by 20% of people. Again, he should go pretty well. Up front, I don't know what's going to happen. Guy Herum is an option. If you're looking to do this double game week, double points for your strikers, he would be a potential option. He scores goals. He does get substituted off sometimes a bit too much for my liking. I do wonder, are they going to maybe try and rotate up front a little bit more with Andre Cooper or someone like that? I don't know, but you could definitely look at Heron for 6.4 million as well. But it's definitely well worth looking at getting 3 Budeglimt players in your team for the double game week, I would say. The final team that got 2 games in that match day 17 double game week is Viking. The problem with Viking is when we have had weeks this year where there's been 2 matches in a week. They've rotated their squad quite heavily, especially in offensive areas. So there's less appeal, I think, for me for Viking players. Certainly, the defence is not really worth looking at. I mean, let's just have a look at the Viking fixtures. Here they are. They've got Molde at home this weekend. That's a tough match. Bodø/Glimt away and Sarpsborg at home in the double game week. So although they've got 2 matches that week, Bodø/Glimt away is not easy. Sarpsborg, I expect them to get a lot better in the second half of the season. So it's tricky, isn't it? The positive side for Viking is they've got Strømsgodset at home and Ranheim at home after that. And then Sarpsborg away to finish the month off. So if you're going to add some Viking players into your squad, they will have long-term value in August. So it's a question of who do you want to look at, and Christian Thorsberg is the obvious pick in midfield for me. He's probably going to start both games in the double match day. Can't see him missing too many minutes. He's popped up with loads of goals and assists, and he would be my pick. He's not a bad price. Ibrahim Haj is another one. You could look at him. And then obviously Trippic and Batikri are guys that you would expect to be featuring as well. But those guys were rested in this double game when there's been more than 1 match in a week before. And the same with the old dog Tommy Hurland. I mean, in my opinion, Hurland's got some goals in him. He's poaching some goals in August. But again, will they rest players in that double game week so you wouldn't get your full value out of Tommy Hurland for that double game week? And because they've got the matches in that double game week are quite tough for Viking, it's almost worth saying, is it worth adding any players from their squad? You might be better off looking after round 17 because they've got, as I say, some nice fixtures to end the month. So, but I do like Christian Thorsberg myself from them. So that's the 4 teams I've talked about in this double game week. Well worth looking into that for sure. Aside from that, let's just make some general points because there's a player here that a lot of you might not recognise in my team already, and it's Lenny Nongis, who's just been signed by Sarpsborg. Now, I know from my history covering French football, Lenny Nongis was a very talented player, came up through the academy in Caen, Stade Malherbe de Caen in France, and then he was signed by Lille LOSC for nearly £1 million a few years back, but his career hasn't really developed as it could and should. But I'll tell you what, Nongis is a winger. If he's mind's focused, he can go really, really well in the Eliteserien, in my personal opinion. He's got the physical attributes to do it. Technically, he's got it. It's just a mental question with Nongis. If he's up for it, then he could go very well here. And you could almost consider he's my sort of joker. That I'm adding him now. I guess not many people are going to be looking at Nongis yet. They've got Rosenborg at home this weekend in the league, which is a tough game. However, Rosenborg are coming off the back of a European match on Wednesday night. And I think Sarpsborg are going to get a lot better as the season develops. They've also signed a goalkeeper from France, Alexandre Letellier. $5.5 million his cost. Again, I can't see many people adding him yet, but he's replaced Vazutin. The thing with Sarpsborg, if they are going to get better in the second half of the season, you would think they will keep some clean sheets along the way. So Letellier may be an option to look at in the long term for Sarpsborg. But and this is going to happen all month. There's going to be new signings that are coming into the league, and if you're sharp at adding the right ones, then that is an area you can get an edge on the opposition in fantasy, isn't it? So definitely keep your eye on Lenny Nongis. He could be worth taking for sure. Now, some other teams that you may have noticed in game week 17, some teams have 2 matches, but Molde and Brand have no games. Now, it's for that reason I'm not interested really in any of their players right now until after that match day 17. I've kept Magnus Wolf Eikram in the side. He just has to be in your squad, doesn't he? He's such a high point scorer. The additional problem for Molde is they are still involved in the Europa League. So, and of course, as these qualifiers get tougher towards the end of the month, there's more chance that they might rest players in the league. I mean, I don't think Mulder will in the league because they're the top of the division. They can't be fucking around with team selection too much. But there is that risk, that could happen. So in terms of strikers, Uwe, Lucky James, you got to look at those still. Ikram, I mean, they're a tough one, Mulder, but I think after game week 17, you can look at maybe getting 3 guys of Mulder back in your side again. But until then, what's the point? Because they're going to be rotting on your bench for a double game week. The same with Bran as well. A lot of people asking me the question of Vito Vermgor. Well, I've got rid of Vermgor now. The simple fact is they've not kept enough clean sheets this year, Bran, and it's frustrating as fantasy owners for that. Vermgor has chipped in with goals, but they just haven't been getting the clean sheets, which means the bonus points haven't been totting up, things like that. Now, Bran do have a nice run of fixtures actually this month. They've got Ranham away this weekend, Mjøndalen away, Tromsø home, and Lillestrøm away. They've been all right away from home this year, Bran, so they should get some points out of those. But that no match in round 17 is a frustration. So. Yeah, I'm not having anyone in Bran in my team right now. I might look at adding some towards the end of the month with a transfer, but yeah, they're a tricky side, and their offensive players tend to get rotated around too much as well for my liking. We better talk about Rosenborg because their form has been an awful lot better recently, but they've been going very well in the Champions League qualifiers. Now they're guaranteed now 2 more rounds of qualifying, whatever happens. They've got Maribor over 2 legs coming up very soon. If they win that, then they could end up with the likes of Ajax or Celtic or FC Copenhagen, and that would be a massive fixture for them, wouldn't it? Towards the end of the month, well worth. I mean, say it was to qualify for the Champions League group stages, it would be well worth their investment, wouldn't it, in focusing on those games. So I'm a little bit concerned that they might look to rotate players towards the end of the month. The manager hasn't done any rotating really this year in League and Cup, but he's going to have to think about doing it towards the end of August with these qualifiers because, there's going to be something on the line for them to qualify for either the Champions League groups or the Europa League groups. So, well worth considering. But at the same time, they are in such good form, you've got to be looking at getting some Rosenborg players in your squad, perhaps. At the moment, I've gone with the defenders, Berger Melling and Hedenstad, the fullbacks. Melling is always a threat to assist goals. And Hedenstad, actually, he does like a long-range shot, does Hedenstad, and a couple might come off for him if he's in the right sort of mood. Again, he might chalk up a few assists on the right-hand side. And, of course, if they do keep a clean sheet, you're going to get the points from those defenders. And I don't think that's a position that Rosenborg are likely to rotate, even in a busy time towards the end of the month. It's the strikers and the wingers that he's more likely to rotate and midfield. Andre Hansen, it could be a good time to buy him as a goalkeeper. I don't think the manager's going to be looking at Harold Usbo unless there's an injury. Otherwise, there are players that are in good form. Mike Jensen's had a good run. Akintola, Redding, Benro, they're waiting to explode, those 2 guys. But again, they're always getting substituted off. I could see definitely those sort of players getting rested towards the end of the month. I mean, if we look at the Rosenborg fixtures, Salzburg away this weekend is not easy, but it's a manageable game. They're going to be a bit tired. Then they've got Maribor in the Champions League. I don't know if it's home or away, but Tromsø at home. I mean, that's an easy fixture on paper. If I was the manager there, I'd be looking to rotate the team. So it looks an easy game, but are your blue chip players going to get a guaranteed number of minutes in that fixture? And Odd away, got to be honest, that's a nightmare for them to have in the middle of this European qualifiers run, because that's the sort of team that really will frustrate them. Again, they've got a nice easy match against Stabæk at home. That'll come in. I mean, that could potentially be in the middle of a fixture against, say, Celtic or Ajax. Now, I know what I would be doing if I'm the manager. I'm looking to rotate, keep my players fresh. So again, easy fixture, but will your key players in your fantasy team get the minutes? That's the question you've got to ask yourself there. And then Vålerenga away to finish the month off is not an easy fixture. So, yeah, Rosenborg, they're on the rise. If they had no other commitments this month, if they're out of Europe, I'd be definitely looking to get in a lot of their players. But for now, I'm just happy with a couple of their defenders. Really, I think that's probably the better way to go regarding Rosenborg. There's not too much else to say at the moment. I mean, I'm just going to go through these fixtures because a few teams stood out as having some really tough games. Haugesund, all year I've been saying avoid their players apart from Alexander Sturlas, who is of course injured for the rest of the season. They're in Europe as well. Sturm Graz second leg on Thursday evening. I don't know how they're going to get on there, but just say they did get through that tie on aggregate. That gives them another couple of games in Europe against PSV Eindhoven. So suddenly, these sort of fixtures here, Stabæk away, I think they're going to be really flat for this one the weekend. That's the sort of match that they're going to really struggle in. Ranheim at home looks easy on paper, but if they're still in Europe, is that going to be a gimme for them? And then Vålerenga away, they could get really murdered in that one if they're struggling from a European hangover. So even at the end of the month, it's not particularly easy fixtures for August. I would be avoiding all of their players. Now, Odd are another team I think have got a tough run of fixtures coming up. Lillestrøm at home this weekend is about the easiest of them this month, but they've got some tough games. Rosenborg, Molde, Bodø Glimt, not easy. They've lost Sander Svensson, one of their wingers, who his statistics weren't great, but he had a big part to play for them in matches. They might lose Fredrik Uldrup Jensen in midfield. So it could be a difficult month for Odd, and I personally made the decision to get rid of Turgil Berven, who's been a crucial part of fantasy this year. You probably needed Turgil Berven in your team if you wanted to be up there in the rankings. He's done a lot better than expected, 94 points. I'm not sure exactly how many goals he scored, but he's had a very good year, hasn't he, Turgil Berven? So, yeah, it's one of those decisions that I've decided to make. I just don't think he's going to have such a good second half to the year. So I think now's the time to sell him. Sell him high while you can before his value might come down. He may prove me wrong, but I look at that. That's a tough run of fixtures. Where's he going to get a lot of goals from in August? I just don't see him netting that very often. So I'd get rid of Turgil Berven myself. It's a risk, but you've got to take risks sometimes, haven't you? And into these other teams, there's some sides have a tough month. Mjøndalen. This could be the month Mjøndalen and Ranheim really get sucked into big trouble at the bottom of the table. They don't have an easy fixture in that lot. They may pick up a victory, surprise you out of nowhere. But Mjøndalen, they've got 3 away games, and then their 2 home matches against Brann and Molde. That's just not easy, is it, for them? They're going to have to somehow find a way to get points. Ranheim, they've got the 2 of their home games at Brann and Molde as well, which is less than ideal. Strømsgodset, they're bottom of the table, and again, it's not an easy month for them. Bodø Glimt and Vålerenga at home, but that's 2 good sides. Viking away, Sarpsborg at home, not easy. At the end of the month, Stabæk is a manageable fixture. Now, I did mention Sarpsborg earlier. I think they're a team that are going to improve as the season comes in the second half of the season. They've already done well in the transfer market, I think, and they may add a couple of players as well. They've got this game against Rosenborg at home this weekend. It's not easy, but it could be a good time to catch them after the European game. But after that, I think they've got fixtures that they can score. Their players can score points in. Viking away, again, it's not easy, but it could be harder. Bodø Glimt at home, again, not easy, but you can get at the Bodø Glimt defence. And then Strømsgodset away and Viking at home to finish the month off. Sarpsborg players are definitely worth looking at. Like I said earlier, Lenny Nongis is one for me. If Jürgen Strand Larsen, maybe it's time you could have a look at him again up front. The teams to avoid Tromsø again, they've got Mjøndalen at home this weekend. After that, they've got some tough games. Rosenborg and Brann away. I don't see them getting anything there. And even the home matches after that, Lillestrøm, Haugesund, well, yeah, they could do okay there, but they're no piece of cake. So, and all year I've been trying to advise people against getting Lillestrøm players in. So, it's about picking the right players for this month. Because after this month, you can usually wildcard at the start of September after the transfers have been done, and then look towards there. But I'd say the 2-3 key points is this match day here, the double game week, make the most of these teams that have got 2 matches that week. Pick the right players in this double game week, and it could set you up really well for the rest of the season. But do consider after this game week what players you still want in August. And remember, at any time in this month, anyone could leave clubs. I mean, obviously certain players are more vulnerable than others, but I've seen it before where a transfer out of this league can absolutely fuck you up massively. So you've got to be, don't rely on someone because no one's a banker this month. Expect the unexpected with transfers. So I'm sure it will happen at some point. Like someone gets transferred out on, say, a Saturday or a Sunday, and there's no word of it beforehand, and suddenly you're in trouble, aren't you? If it's a key player. So you can't put all your eggs in one basket this month for sure. You've got to be adaptable. Be willing to take the rough with the smooth. You might get a bit of bad luck at times, but keep believing in yourself. And I say this double game week is going to be the one of the crucial things come the end of the season. If you've got any chips remaining on double captain or the Spiss Rusher, where the strikers double points, I would strongly consider using them. But you've got to pick the right players for that double game week, and with a little bit of luck here and there, you might score well. So I hope this video helped you out. Give me your thoughts, give me some feedback if you want, and I'll return at some point this month as well, probably to talk about new signings actually. I guess there'll be a lot of questions about players that no one really knows much about, but keep following this YouTube channel, keep listening to the Nordic Football Podcast, where we will be constantly talking about, let's say, the Eliteserien, and maybe I'll be back with some more videos very soon on here. But thanks for listening or watching, and I'll see you again very soon.